Alright, so now we're going to talk about replacing track inserts and load wheels. You'll need to replace the load wheels if the bearings go bad, if they're very dirty, worn, cracked, what have you. Track inserts are a little bit burlier, they last a little bit longer, but if they get any deep gouges in them somehow, or if they're just very worn to the point where there's none of the original Teflon coating on them, it's a good thing to replace. So what you want to do, start off with 2.5mm wrench and remove the track insert screws from each side of the bike. There should be 8 total. Okay, so next thing you're going to do is remove the drive arm. Start off by taking out the crank axle here. 6mm wrench. These both tighten towards the front of the bike, meaning the drive side here will be standard thread lefty-loosey, and the left side will be lefty-tighty. Just want to undo this. Alright, so the drive arm's free here. Next thing you want to do is get something to protect the drive arm. We use a little cut-off piece of inner tube. Don't want to cut it up too badly on the frame. And then stick the load wheels at the back like so. Okay, so next thing you want to do is remove the retaining ring from the load wheel axle. This keeps the load wheels on. So, just want to find the edge of it, which is right here. Use a small pick, lift that edge up, like so. And then just want to slide that off of the axle. At that point, you can take your load wheel out. They pop off, and the whole drive arm will come out. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and replace the track inserts. For ease of demonstration, I took the drive arm completely off. If you're only replacing your load wheels, you wouldn't necessarily need to completely remove the drive arm. But again, just for ease of demonstration, that's what I've done. So, to get your track insert out, it's good to have a long screwdriver or something else you can use to pry them out. It's nice and strong. I doubled up a piece of inner tube here to protect the frame. And what you're going to want to do is stick this between the frame and the front of the track insert to help pry it out the back. Alright, so once you have that in position, you can simply pry the track insert out. Sometimes this might be a little bit more difficult depending on how much gunk is on the bottom of the track insert. Once you get to a certain point, you might want to use something hard plastic that won't mar the bike. We have a special tool, it's a piece of Delrin, that we use to act as a wedge, help us push the track insert out a bit further. And at that point, you just want to keep pushing and pushing until you can get a good grab on the end of the track insert and then pull it out. Alright, so sometimes the customer will complain about noise, so if they think that their ride is just very noisy, a lot of times you just add standard issue elliptico surf wax to the bottom of the tracks. This is an old one, you can see a lot of that is worn off. And if you're inserting a new track insert, we like to put a little extra wax on them anyway, just to make sure that noise factor won't be an issue. So what you just do is take your wax, get good coverage over the bottom as well as the side. Equally important to do the side because as this whole thing moves under load of the rider, it will bend and interact with the frame, so you're going to make sure that you get as much wax on here as possible to dampen out the noise. Oftentimes I like to go over the front end of it with just a dry cloth, or you can use a little alcohol, and just remove any wax that might have worked its way over. So when you're getting ready to put that track insert back in, just want to slide it into the rear of the frame, into the groove it came out of. Use a rubber or hard plastic mallet and hammer it back into place, making sure that you hold onto the track insert not far from where you're hammering, because you don't want this thing to flex or bend, because then you're just going to have a bigger noise problem and potentially weakened track insert. Just want to go pretty gentle with it. It shouldn't be very hard to get in. If you put too much wax on here, this might be harder to hammer in. If that's the case, you should really take it back out, remove some of that wax and put it back in, because if it's impossible to install, it'll just be that much harder to uninstall later. Now when the track insert gets to the end of the track, you can't really hammer it into position. It's good to use a soft tool that won't mar the track insert. Again, we have our nice little delivering tool that we made here. Just give it a few extra taps into place. I'm going to check the alignment of the holes that the track insert screws go into. Make sure that they're even with the frame. These look lined up fairly well. Okay, and then you can go ahead and reinstall your drive arm. Alright, so just reversing the process of removing the load wheels. Just want to get them on the axle here. Just install that into the drive arm. Now you got to put the retaining ring back on. Just find one edge of it and try to seat that around the groove in the load wheel axle, and just slide it into position. It should pop on. It'll probably take you a few times the first time you get used to it, but then you get your technique down. And then yeah, so that's installed. So just slide that back into the track and use your trusty 6mm wrench to reinstall the drive arm at the crank. Remember, drive side righty-tighty, non-drive side lefty-tighty, or just tightening towards the front of the bike. Get that tightened down. And just reinstall your track insert screws. 2.5mm wrench. Helps if you start on the side of the track insert with the small hole on it, not the elongated oval. And you don't want to tighten them down until you make sure that both track inserts go in straight and flush. Alright, so when you're finishing up here, you want to check how well you've done installing the load wheels and track inserts. You want to make sure everything's quiet, running smooth. So just go ahead, run the track. Now you can hear there's a repetitive click. So there's probably just a little bit of residual wax left over on the track. Usually I have a little squirt bottle full of alcohol, rag. You just wipe down the track insert. Get any little bits of dirt, wax, or whatever that were on the track off. Also just check the surface of your load wheel, wipe it down, and recheck it. And keep doing that until it sounds good.